November 12th, 2023 meeting of the USD 305 Board of Education. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Before we move into the approval of our agenda this evening, I want to take just a second and recognize Dr. Bandre. This is Dr. Bandre's last meeting as a board member with us, so we want to thank him for his service. And for those of you who don't know, board members do this. It's an elected position, but it is not a paid position. We spend a lot of time working, trying to help make the schools and the community a better place. And Dr. Bandre, I want to thank you for your commitment of the last 4 years. Okay, so the first thing we have after that is approval of our agenda. And we do need to make a modification. There is no need for the executive session this evening. Is there a motion regarding the agenda? Mr. Gardner?
I move that the agenda be accepted with the noted modifications.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Dr. Bandre seconds. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. The first item we have this evening is the 2023-2024 amended budget hearing. At the November 14th, 2023 board meeting, the publication of notice of hearing on amending the 2023-2024 budget was approved. The budget amendment is needed due to bond refinancing dated September 1 of 2023. The notice and details were published in the Salina Journal on November 19th, 2023. It was also available on the district website. We will now open the budget hearing for the purpose of hearing and answering objections of taxpayers relating to the 2023-2024 amended budget. Okay, appears we have no comments, so I would entertain a motion to approve the 2023-2024 amended budget as published. Dr. Bandre?
Mr. President, I move we approve the amended budget as presented.
Motion. Ms. Casso seconds. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. The next item on our agenda this evening is recognitions and presentations with Ms. Jennifer Kamer.
We hear that a lot at board meetings.
Staff members are nominated by colleagues to receive a You Make a Difference Award for their support of students and the mission of Salina Public Schools. Board of Education members surprise the recipients during their workday, delivering a lapel pin and a handwritten note. Our first recipient this evening is Amanda Howland, third grade teacher at Coronado Elementary School. Always ready with a friendly greeting and a bright smile, Amanda is a positive presence in her school. She works tirelessly to build strong relationships with students in her room and throughout the school. She is ready to help her colleagues anytime and constantly seeks opportunities to grow. Thank you, Amanda, for making a difference. Our next... Next, we have Jan Boyer, a paraeducator at Stewart Elementary School. Jan is a beacon of positivity with special education students. She is patient and understanding of every student's unique potential. Her kind efforts to connect with students encourage them to aim higher. Jan consistently offers outstanding support to classroom teachers. She truly makes a difference. Thank you, Jan. Tiffany Lowe, assistant principal at Central High School. Tiffany strikes the perfect balance between maintaining discipline and fostering a nurturing environment. She believes in accountability while staying focused on every student's potential to grow and learn. Tiffany supports teachers as they navigate the complexities of challenging student situations with grace and expertise. Thank you, Tiffany, for making a difference. And now we're going to move on to our Superintendent Excellence Awards for students who competed at the state level in a fall sport or activity. Please note in advance that many students and coaches may not be present due to winter sports and activities. Tonight we have Peyton Fry, student photographer intern from Central High. He's going to take pictures of our students. Thank you, Peyton. We appreciate your work. Our first group of awards tonight goes to a girls golf student at South High School. Jason Hooper is the coach, but he's not able to be here this evening. Assistant coach Steve Brown is here in his place. Will you please join Superintendent Exline in the front? All right. Maybe he was unable to join as well. If the golf student from South is here, will you please come to the front? Madison Doer. Madison placed 9th at state, and this was her second consecutive top 20 state finish. She was also named to the 5A All-State Honorable Mention team. Congratulations. Please allow the Board of Education to congratulate you. Our next group of awards tonight goes to a girls golf student at Central High School. Alyssa Waldron is the coach. Will you please join Superintendent Exline in the front? And will the golf student from Central please line up next to them as well? Congratulations to Cindric White, senior. Cindric averaged under 100 strokes during the season and shot her personal best score of 93. Next, we recognize a girls tennis student at South High School. Mackenzie Morris is the coach. Will you please join Superintendent Exline in the front? And will the tennis student from South please line up as well? Sophia Burns is a junior. Sophia is a two-time state qualifier in tennis and won her first ever state match this year. And our next group of awards tonight goes to the girls tennis team at Central High School. Mackenzie Weishar is the coach and Clark Renfro is the assistant coach. Will you please join Superintendent Exline in the front? And will all the tennis students from Central please line up as well? Students, as I call your name, please step towards Superintendent Exline so you can receive your award. When you've received your award, please go back to the line and remain standing until everyone's received their award. This is the third year in a row where the Central High girls tennis team has been the regional champions, and together they finished as the 5A state runner-up. Playing doubles, Brooke Banninger, sophomore, placed 10th at state with Claire Renfro, junior. Addison Renfro, junior, placed 5th at state. And she placed 5th at state with Mallory Renfro, junior as well. Playing singles, Janae Montoya, senior, placed 7th at state. And we would also like to recognize Kinsley Foth Jr., who qualified for state but was unable to compete due to an injury. Our next group of awards goes to the cross-country team at South High School. Travis Peterson is the coach, but is unable to be here tonight. Assistant Coach Tim Bishop is here in his place. Will you please join Superintendent Exline in the front? Will all the cross-country students from South please line up as well? The girls' team placed 10th overall. Alina Arcio, sophomore, placed 71st. Lillian Davis, sophomore, placed 85th. Justin Fisher, senior, placed 39th. Ava Lemaster, senior, placed 54th. Jaden Pipos, sophomore, placed 99th. Emelina Stevens, freshman, placed 43rd. Corbin Dykes, junior, placed 78th. Kyler Webb, sophomore, placed 61st. Very good. And Alina Arcio, sophomore, placed 71st. Next, we recognize the cross-country team at Central High School. Brad Dix is the coach, but he isn't able to be here this evening. Assistant Coach Trey Cullens is here in his place. Will you please join Superintendent Exline in the front? And will the cross-country students from Central please line up as well? The boys' team finished 10th overall. Liam Denau Young, sophomore, placed 31st. Isaac Howe, sophomore, placed 68th. Luke Affolder, freshman, placed 71st. Jack Burt, junior, placed 76th. Tayton Morris, sophomore, placed 90th. Christian Brosey, sophomore, placed 92nd. Colin Roop, freshman, placed 98th. Caitlin Roop, junior. This is Caitlin's second year as a state champion, and she qualified for the Nike Cross Nationals in Portland, Oregon, which took place on December 2nd. She placed 28th out of 204. Kaylee Schultz, freshman. Kaylee was the state runner-up. Kaylee and Caitlin finished first and second in every race this year. Our next group of awards tonight goes to the Fort Hays State Math Relays team at South High School. Candace Mahoney is the sponsor. Will you please join Superintendent Exline in the front? And will all of the Math Relay students from South please line up as well? At the Fort Hays State Math Relays competition, students are grouped together by grade to compete as a team or compete as individuals in 6 different categories. With over 601 participating students, the 15 students from South all earned a top 10 finish in their categories. Cooper Hutton, freshman. Aryan Patel, freshman. Saikum Saikau, freshman. Connor Stewart, freshman. Aryan Saikum and Connor placed 3rd in algebra manipulations. Elijah Castro, sophomore. Summer Fauci Wills, sophomore. Kristen Kenyon, sophomore. Julie Lai, sophomore. Julie placed 2nd in applications of algebra as an individual. Joshua Lee Perez, sophomore. Phillips Fachanla, sophomore. Brian Fajardo Maras, junior. Dylan Norris, junior. Danny Tazau, junior. Alexa Cruz Rivera, senior. Claire McCullough, senior. The Fort Hays State Math Relays team at Central High School, recognition is next. Matt Dykus is the coach, but he's unable to be here this evening. Stephanie Johannes is here in his place. Will you please join Superintendent Exline in the front? And will the Math Relay students from Central please line up next to them? The team from Central placed 6th overall in the 4A, 5A, 6A division. Jake Schmitz, sophomore, placed 3rd in applications of algebra as an individual. Carson Ablard, junior. DJ Cooper, junior. Alyssa Maz, junior. Valerie Van Zandt, junior. Nehemiah Gomendoza, senior, placed 1st in both number sense and informal geometry as an individual. Brock Campling, senior. Colby Schaefer, senior. Nehemiah, Brock, and Colby placed 1st as a team in trigonometry. What group is this?
Math from South High.
Okay, very good. And is Psychom, Psycho? Congratulations to Psychom, Psycho, a freshman who was a part of the Fort Hays State Math Relays team from South High School. Thank you. Thank you, Candace. We just did Central, right? We just did it, right?
Yeah, we're ready for South now.
Very good. Our next group of awards goes to the boys soccer team at South High School. Trey Crow is the coach. Will you please join Superintendent Exline in the front, and will all the soccer students from South please line up as well? The team finished third at state with a total of 75 goals, a tie for second most number of goals in history. We'd also like to congratulate Trey Crow as he was selected to be the 5A Coach of the Year and the Ark Valley Chisholm Trail League's Division I Co-Coach of the Year. Lawrence Jensen, sophomore. Luke Matto, junior, honorable mention, All-League, All-State First Team. Yaden Montanez, freshman, JV Teams, co-MVP. Jesse Luna, senior. Trayton Kinderneck, junior. Abram Jennings, senior. Xavier Nuanlasi, senior. Rylan Snell, junior. Juan Escobedo, sophomore. Juan was the JV team's co-MVP. Seth Flores, senior. All-League First Team, Team's MVP and Offensive Player of the Year, letter winner, team captain for 2 years, 4-year starter, All-State First Team, and up for All-Region American Team. Carson Crow, senior. All-League First Team, Team Leadership, 4-year starter, letter winner, captain for 2 years, All-State First Team. Franklin Figueroa Ramirez, junior. Honorable mention, All-League. Rogelio Lara, freshman, team's freshman player of the year. Jose Aranda, sophomore. Rodrigo Palacios, sophomore. Honorable mention, All-League, All-State honorable mention. Lander Alvarado Escobedo, sophomore. Brett Jones, junior. Honorable mention, All-League. Jason Behrens, senior. Dominique Girard, senior. Saul Cabral, sophomore. Joshua Soto, sophomore. Joshua was the team's most improved player. Damon McDonald, sophomore. Honorable mention, All-League, team's co-defensive player of the year. Our final group of awards goes to the Unified Bowling Team, which combines students from both South and Central high schools. Kevin Miller is the coach. Will you please join Superintendent Exline in the front? And will all the Unified Bowling students please line up as well? The Unified Bowling Team placed third at regional, and this is the second year the team has qualified for state. Pete Bernardo, sophomore. Dayton Brown, sophomore. Camden, here we go. Camden Calhoun, senior. Reese Curtis, senior. Zach Freeman, senior. Bailey Heltzer, sophomore. Cheyenne Heltzer, sophomore. Deontre Morton, junior. Danielle Cullen Welsh, sophomore. Will Cranowitter, senior. Riley Lambeth, junior. Callie Vargas, junior. Rosalind Show, senior. And Peyton Fulton, junior.
All right, thank you. It's always great to recognize our students, and it's nice that we have so many to recognize. The next item we have is the community surveys results with Rick Nobles. Mr. Nobles?
Good evening, and thank you for having me tonight. As you know, we conducted a telephone survey for the district in September of 2023. We spoke to 300 randomly selected head of household registered voters who lived in the school district, and we matched the population pattern to the completed calls that we did. So when we do those two things, you get a margin of error of 5.6%. So as you hear the numbers, just kind of keep that in mind. We always start out by asking people to grade the district on a number of different things. You don't need to know a lot about the district to think, whether or not they're any good. So the top performing areas on a 5-point weighted scale: quality of school facilities, performance of teachers, safety of students, and quality of education, all had a 4.09 or better. That is better than most of the school districts that we work with in Kansas and Missouri. We then ask an open-ended question about strengths and weaknesses, or strengths and areas of improvement, I should say. All 300 respondents were asked that, and then we code the answers to see what bubbles to the surface. In doing so, don't know, top the list of strengths, which is probably not what you want to hear, followed by provides a good education, teachers and staff. In terms of needing areas of improvement, don't know was also the top answer. That's okay in terms of improvements needed. The other two things were managing money and budget and communication with patrons. And I'll tell you, those are the three things in just about every school district. I'm quit asking this question because it always kind of comes up the same. Then we asked about the district's top priority moving forward. Providing a good education, top the list, 85 out of 300. Teaching life and practical skills was second. And retaining, hiring good teachers and staff was third. We then asked a section about awareness of district programs and expansion of the early childhood program. Almost everybody who participated said that, wait a minute, sorry, I missed a page. Awareness of earlier programs. The first one was extracurricular activities, 93% aware or somewhat aware. Then we ask about the importance of expanding early childhood. Again, nearly everybody, 93%, said that was very important or somewhat important. We then asked a section about working in the Salina School District. The majority felt that it was either an excellent or a good place to work, 81%. Only 14 people thought it was just fair, and no one thought it was bad. keeping with the theme of district employment responses, respondents were asked their level of awareness about flexible scheduling for support staff. More than half, 57%, said they were either not aware or not aware at all, while 41% said they were very aware or somewhat aware. 41's a good number for that question. That's kind of a difficult thing for most people to know. We then asked about the idea of shifting boundaries, and it was the only thing in the entire survey that didn't have a maximum number of votes. 43% of respondents said they thought it was a good idea, while 23% said it should not happen, and the rest didn't have an answer. Communication from the district. We always ask people to tell us where they get their information about the district. Where do you turn to? And we asked the question, other than friends and neighbors, because friends and neighbors is the number one response in every school district. Here people said, other than friends and neighbors, it's website or sites. Two sources tied for second was the newsletter from the district and the Salina Journal. So it's always good that you get a district effort or two, and then get a third-party effort like the Journal. So that's really good. Social media got 32 mentions, and I'm wondering if some people got websites and social media kind of confused, because Facebook is usually in the top one or two these days, and I'm sure that's probably the case. Number one topic participants would like the district to communicate about: career and technical education at 47%. Other popular topics were bolstering school safety at 32%, preparation for college, career, military at 15%. So what this research tells me, and I do this a lot, is you're doing an excellent job with programming, quality of education, everything. Patrons seem to be very happy overall, and you should be pleased at that. In terms of ideas and priorities, everything had a good, strong support, with the exception of boundaries. Very minor, powder puff issue about communications that you might want to think about some improvements in that area, and they would be minor. The only thing that we could recommend was a virtual citizens advisory committee that maybe helps you get out the word more granular. As an idea. That's it. Can I answer any questions?
Ms. Zimmerman?
I'm curious how many people you had to call to find those 300 people.
Probably 1,800. That's what it usually is, 5 or 6 per one.
Okay. Mr. Noble's very reaffirming of the work that the staff has put into, and I know you mentioned the communication piece. I know that's been a focus over the last probably couple of years, gearing that up, and Jennifer's really been working on that. So thank you, Jennifer, for doing that as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay. Next item on our agenda this evening is approval of the consent agenda items, which include minutes of the November 14th, 2023 regular meeting, the personnel report, the financials report, which includes the November bills list, the October treasurer's report, the October investment report, the October journal entries, to approve encumbrance listings to Learning A to Z in the amount of $34,560 for the purchase of 270 licenses for Reading A to Z, and to approve the enterprise fleet management proposal. Is there a motion regarding the consent agenda? Mr. Grant?
Mr. President, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Mr. Gardner seconds. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Next item on our agenda is public forum, but we've not had anyone request to speak tonight. So we'll move to our action agenda, which is the Central High Robotics out-of-state field trip with Ms. Sheila Allstat. Seems like we've heard this before. Robotics must be doing pretty good, huh?
We're growing. The year that we shut down right after spring break, we didn't get to go to Denver. And then for 2 years, we didn't have a robotics competition. And then the last 2 years, we went to Kansas City. It was a little bit closer. We were a smaller team because we lost a lot during the pandemic. This year, we're growing again. We have 12 students going to Kansas City on Friday for a conference on Saturday. So I'm very excited. And I would like to branch out and try to go to Oklahoma City's regionals. I had considered going to the Kansas City regionals again, but they have 9 teams from Brazil coming in, so their spots were very limited. So, does anyone have any questions?
Any questions? Entertain a motion regarding this item? Dr. Bender?
First, just thank you for the work. It's exciting these students get the opportunity, and working at the college level, we see these things benefit students in so many ways down the road too, so it's great work. Thank you. But with that, I move we approve the Central High Robotics out-of-state trip to Oklahoma City on April 3rd through April 6th as presented.
Okay, we have Ms. Casso seconds. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Have fun.
Oh, and one thing, since we are going to Oklahoma City, and it's not nearly as far as Denver, we won't actually have to miss school on Wednesday. We can leave at like 3 o'clock or after school on Wednesday, so they'll only be missing 2 days of school instead of 3. So, but thank you for letting us go.
That's great. I know the rest of the staff appreciates that too. Less to make up for students. Next item on our agenda is the strategic plan goals with Ms. Rector.
Are there any questions about the goals that were presented? And so a copy of those are in your packet. And so we had a goal for communication, a goal for critical thinking, and a goal for social emotional. And we would be looking at a 4% increase on each of those goals each year.
No questions, just to reiterate what we talked about at the last meeting, which is that they're admirable goals, and it'll be fun to see what happens as time goes by.
That I'd entertain a motion regarding the strategic plan goals.
Mr. President, I move we approve the additional growth measures to monitor the progress of the strategic goal areas as presented.
So motion, is there a second? Ms. Zimmerman seconds. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is legislative priorities with Superintendent Exline.
Thank you. I will refer you to your packet. I did make several changes to the document based upon the feedback that you gave me the last time that we met and the discussion that we had. And so you'll notice that at the top of that, highlighted in yellow, I added some context about the purpose of the document as you requested. And then on the state of Kansas legislative priorities under school funding, I added a statement there about promoting workforce development. That was something that you felt like you wanted the document to reflect. And then we added a second priority about opposing efforts to put money, public money, into private schools. And so there is a statement there that we actually pulled from last year's document and I put back in. And then there, on the recruitment and retention of highly qualified teachers, one of the asks was for us to put some local context in the document. And so we did talk about our current staffing, the number of staff that left our employment at the end of the year. At this time, over 25% of our staff have 5 or fewer years in education. And so some context about Salina not being alone in staffing challenges then. And then we also added the steps that we had taken to try to recruit and retain the strongest staff possible for our students as you requested. So that is reflected as well. And with those changes, I'm open to any discussion, any further recommendations for changes. And if there aren't any, then we just need approval so that we can move forward, starting to engage in conversation with those that represent us.
Dr. Bender?
No questions or suggestions for improvement. I just want to state for the record that these things are so incredibly important. I mean, people don't realize how much of an influence the state and federal legislatures have on everything we do. And to have these contextualized the way they are, the thought that's gone into them, I personally agree with everything on the page. And Stephen Howe helps make his job possible by moonlighting with Hassman Pest Control, and last time he was at my house, I talked to him about these things. And that's just so important, is what it comes down to. So I think it's great work, and I hope that it can all move forward well with these things.
I find it interesting, just as we talk through the first things dealing with workforce development, and one of our survey results was on career and tech ed.
Right.
And it really balances the alignment, not only, from the district, but also within the community. Ms. Zimmerman?
I move that we approve the Salina Public Schools 2024 legislative priorities document as presented.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Ms. Casso seconds. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Move into the Neighborhood Revitalization Plan Amendment with Superintendent Excellent.
Okay, so again, I'll direct you to your packet. We do have Dean Andrew here to answer any questions, should you have them, but I'll just give you a quick overview. The Kansas legislature started the Neighborhood Revitalization Program, and the program actually allows property owners who make improvement to properties within areas that have been defined by the city to apply for a property tax rebate that applies to the amount that the increase in taxes would be on that property. Okay, so if I buy a property in one of these areas and I make improvements, we would still get the tax on that original value. The tax that we would not get, that they get the rebate on, is the change in valuation for a certain period of time. Okay, so as a taxing entity, we've participated in this interlocal agreement for the rebate program in the past. And my recommendation is that we would continue to do that. This is development in Salina and in Saline County is good for our students, it's good for our families, it's good for our district. And so in the past, we have supported these kinds of issues. We've had this in place since 1996, with the current plan ending at the end of this month. And that's the reason that we need action today. The Neighborhood Revitalization Program encourages investment in the areas that are most in need of incentivization. And the proposed plan, there are over 120 projects have been approved on the plan to date. Since 2018, there have been 23 rebate applications that were filed, just to give you context of the volume. At this time, there are 64 property tax rebates that are currently in effect. And so they're in effect for a certain number of years. And then at the end of that rebate period, then we do collect the full tax on those properties moving forward. The area included in the plan was adjusted, and that's the reason that we need your approval. And it now includes the recently annexed Agri Center located between Old Highway 40 and Broadway, just south of North Street. There's just a little sliver there that has been pulled into the plan. And so with that said, I recommend approving the agreement. If you have any questions, though, Dean Andrew is here from the city, and I know that he can speak to this, to probably any question you have.
Are there any questions? Ms. Zimmerman?
I'm curious, property tax tends to go up just from staying the same. And I wondered if there's any adjustment for, well, if you add some value to your property, is the tax still on the original value, or is there any increment increase to go along with what would have happened if their property had stayed the same? I'm not sure if I said that very well.
I'm Dean Andrew, Planning and Zoning Administrator for the city. I've been administering this program for the last 23 years. I've got just a concrete example for you of a recent application. Habitat for Humanity identifies vacant lots in some of our inner neighborhoods, and so they recently took a lot on Choctaw Avenue that is south of West Crawford, and the valuation of that vacant lot was $8,730, which means that's the property tax it was generating based on that. They put a house on the property. The county appraiser evaluated that as $102,500. The difference between the beginning and post-construction value establishes a percentage that you're eligible for a rebate, so that it's a percentage. So if that $102,500 final value adjusts, then the rebate is 91% of your post-construction value. So if over the 10-year life of the rebate, that valuation increases, your rebate at 91% is going to increase slightly. But as the superintendent mentioned, all these parcels are generating the same amount of tax that they were originally. They pay their tax, and then they get a rebate check based on that percentage. And that's going to vary. Some the rebate percentage is as small as 25 or 30%, and this, when you take a vacant lot and put a structure on it, that's the largest rebate we have. I did want to point out there were a couple in the plan. There were 4 individual former schools that were made eligible for rebate when those schools were closed and offered for private use, and the developers who turned Roosevelt Lincoln into Pioneer President's Place indicated that without this program it would not have been financially feasible for them to do that. So it's particularly important for older buildings that people want to rehabilitate.
Mr. Andrews, just for clarification, the old program expires the end of this year. This one kicks in, but it only applies to new renovations, or do the old renovations still carry forward?
It still carries forward, and so it's allowing, without renewal of the program, we would still be paying rebates out on the previously approved programs, but this allows any new project that comes in the next 5 years to be eligible.
Any other questions? It sounds to me like we've got the base and we still get the inflationary tax on the base, but then we gain in our community with development. Mr. Banter or Dr.
I guess
Banter?
I do have one question. This may not be exactly relevant, but I read recently that City Council approved waiving taxes for 10 years for some of the property development with the new apartments out west of Menards. Does that whole process play into this to some extent? So in 10 years, when that process is up, does that affect, and if my two topics are not related, please tell me so, but I just wonder how that all plays
Well,
in.
there are separate and independent, and they're entirely different statutes. The difference between those types of programs and this is a rebate, and so people pay their tax and then get a portion rebated back. In those cases, those are a
Next item on our agenda is moving to the discussion agenda, and we get to hear about Salina Virtual Innovation Academy, an update from Ms. Julie Falcon. It's nice to see you here, Ms. Falcon.
Okay, so I heard the theme, so I'm going to refer you to your packet. Do you guys have any questions? No? That doesn't work? Okay. So then now I go to what button? This button?
You know, I learned a lot from last week. 'cause
Okay,
I couldn't
here we
do it
go.
last time. So here we go.
Okay. Good evening. Oh, I have to be talented in over here, okay. Good evening, is that better? Okay, So Julie Falcon, Principal, Salina Virtual Innovation Academy. We serve students grades 6 through 12. And if you look, we started the school with 54 students. We have 50 students currently. We had 2 return on site because that was just better for them educationally. 1 moved out of the district and 1 decided to pursue a different alternative. So if you look at our enrollment and kind of how we're balanced out, most of our bigger classes are in 10th and 11th grade. Our next 2 classes would be 8th and 12th, and then get smaller from there. Kind of giving you a timeline of since I took over and some of the things that have happened. I had the opportunity to sit down with the previous staff before I started, and I asked them some key questions of what worked, what didn't work, what would they like to see moving forward. The resounding theme was curriculum. They wanted to look at that a little bit more in depth and kind of align it with what is happening in the comprehensive high school. And so partnered with secondary building representatives from each of the middle schools and high schools. We took all of the curriculum from grades 6 through 12 in the core classes and aligned it with the curriculum so that the curriculum in accelerated ed matches what is happening in the classrooms. And so that allows for, if a student is coming to us from the comprehensive high school or wanting to move back into the comprehensive high school, then it's more of a seamless flow, like they're learning the same thing at my school as they would be in the high school. So that took some extensive work, and I was appreciative of the partnership in allowing for that to happen. The other thing that happened in June was because there was a turnover in staffing, the classrooms needed to be reorganized, and so spent a little time in organizing our inventory. We were in 4 different places with stuff, and so kind of put it all together, understanding what we had, so not ordering things I didn't need, getting to see what I had moving forward in there. So then when starting in July, one of the things that I ran into was the previous year had not been closed out, so I had to spend a little time with that in order for me to create the courses that needed to happen as a result of the curriculum alignment. Then worked on enrollment and how best to handle that. And because I wear many hats, there was a lot of new learning. So then we move into August, and we have the big push in enrollment. There was lots of training, collaboration between my teachers, different things going on, the collaboration, just learning the new programs. I'm very, very thankful for Aaron and Michelle. They helped me tremendously to get started. We're a good resource going forward. I also had lots of people who stepped forward to help me out. Dr. Stevens spent quite a bit of time with getting things set up in Skyward and just creating lots of different classes. So lots of things going on there. And then we took some time to norm some expectations with teachers so that everybody was on the same page. We also took some times with student and learning coaches and required everybody to come in for an orientation, whether you were new or you were returning. And then with that came some issues when we got to enrollment. There's some compatibility issues with our Chromebooks and the accelerated ed program, so that some of the classes that we ended up not being able to offer. I spent a lot of time with Holly sitting down. We took a deep dive into a lot of the classwork, and it just wasn't possible without putting us at great risk. So then had to do some shifting with students and adjusting some coursework at that time so that we were providing the best possible education, but also keeping our system safe. And then September turned all about attendance. And so if you're not aware, the state has put in a new guideline that they would like to see daily attendance. And so I had to do some adjustment in how that was recorded because in the previous couple of years that attendance was not taken as on a consistent basis. And so that was a learning curve for my previous students, not so much so for the new students coming in. So each week now that there is daily attendance taken, it's just happens a week later than normal. So they get from Monday at midnight until Sunday at 11:59 to get their hours in. And then on Tuesday mornings, I go ahead and record attendance. They have that opportunity to submit their offline logs, which we had to create, and make sure that they could do them electronically and share them with me instead of trying to do them paper pencil. So engagement was a big focus in September. And then October to present, we're continuing to build structure and the expectations so students can be successful. So some of the celebrations that you will see, because I required everybody to come in, and you know how just because I required it doesn't usually happen, but we had 100% participation, so that was good. I am super proud of my teachers. I have 2 full-time teachers and 1 half-time teacher serving my students, and they are doing a remarkable job, so that is a celebration for me. Next one down is we started pretty strong. 6% of our students were actively making progress. And if you will look, I still have 94% who are active. They are just not making the progress I would like them to at this point. So we're still working on that. I have been in this district 19 years, and I would say I'm pretty proud of the next one where we had 73% attendance at our parent-teacher conferences. Those were held, you could either schedule them virtually or you could come in person. And so very proud of that statistic. Another thing that's going well is we have a large number of students who are coming in for in-person tutoring. We have a lot that are scheduling virtually, but there's quite a few students who are reaching out. So on average on a day, you can see between 6 and 10 students in our building. So it's pretty good with the teachers that are serving those students. Another fun activity that we got to do in the fall was the engagement. We made ornaments. Students got to come in with their learning coach, and we had the activity, provided some snacks and different things, and so it was just a good time to have some informal conversations and get some feedback of what was working for them, and just kind of have that time to do something fun that maybe you wouldn't have done as a middle school or high school student in a while. So one thing that we did notice from that fall engagement activity that we probably need to plan for is some of our students could not get there because of transportation issues. And so when we're planning things in the future, we need to make sure we're cognizant of that barrier and make it more accessible to all of our students. The last thing they're celebrating is we have established a site council. We had our first meeting in November. We have 2 more planned. I have 2 parents and a teacher that are part of that. So if any community wants to volunteer to be part of that too, I'm still looking for that piece. Kind of what the district's strategic plan goals. We're focusing on building the consistency. And so when you're looking at this, a big part of my program is communication. So we're always looking for ways to get connected with students. You can see all the different ways that we're trying that. We want students to do authentic work. So that was a big piece that we pushed for, was to have all of our teachers on the same page, all of them requiring the same type of, if you're going to have a short answer, if you're going to do an essay, here's the format we want it in. Here's how we're addressing plagiarism or not doing your own work. We're doing a lot of reteaching. We're trying to provide the resources because we really do think even though you're in a virtual environment, we want it to be that you are building a strong foundation so that when you're moving forward to whatever, that you can be successful. And so in the self-directed learning aspect, I mean, that is what That's what we're all about in the virtual environment. You have to be self-directed in order to be successful. So we're having some difficult conversations with students and parents about what that means. And we've had, probably I've met with 85% of my students and parents because of this push of, I want you to be accountable and we're here to help. Here's the resources we can provide. So spending a lot of time on that to get the consistency. So with everything, there are challenges. So because I have the 2 full-time and half-time, so most of my teachers, if you're full-time, are teaching 30 or more classes. And so with that becomes, they're going to be successful in their core classes that they are trained in, but you have where they're having to do some extensive new learning. So for instance, I have a teacher who teaches computer-aided drafting. That was one of our areas that we also noticed that was not compatible. So if a student is in that course, they have to come on site and be with a computer at the school. And so it's requiring that teacher to know that program well, if not having that expertise, having really to rely on some self-learning. So it's just one of the, when you don't have as many teachers in that with this program, which I do really like accelerated learning because I love the rigor of it. But it also has that other side of it where it's requiring my teachers to have a certain level of expertise and try to stay one step ahead of students, because I have another teacher learning how to code so that she can teach a student how to code. We have a nursing program, we have art, we have, foreign languages, so just having to learn the foreign language to stay one step ahead of students. So, and they're doing all of that without really any PLC collaboration support. So one of the things that I'm looking at to help with in next semester is trying to partner with some secondary teachers as a resource so that they don't have to do all of this learning on their own. They can get some expertise from those elective teachers so that in moving forward it becomes a little bit easier to teach the students those skills. One of the things we laugh about is nobody is really very good at art. And so when you're judging it to be at this certain level, it's like, ooh, that looks really good. But, if an art teacher was judging it, it might not be the same. So a little bit of learning curve there. But the other thing I can do is I can strategically sequence course offerings. So at the beginning of the year, I didn't have enough background in knowing, like, I just opened up every class instead of I needed to look at what was available, what my students needed, and start pairing so that my teachers are not as overloaded with a singleton class of maybe only one student in it or 2 students in it. So that's some of the things that trying to, in moving forward, help my teachers out by being a little bit more strategic. Still working on trying to be fully staffed, which means 4 FTE, so that I can offer different things as in post-secondary plans, enrichment opportunities, a way to continue to build our culture through events and clubs. So trying to get some of that. So the other challenge with the many hats that I wear, because, different from a comprehensive school because I don't have the traditional staff. So one of the things that I'm running into is the balance between having to be the disciplinarian and the expectation person, and then on the other hand, trying to say, I'm here to support you in the counseling role and all of those things. So it's kind of a clash because regardless of how much I say it, a student's most of the time only going to see me as the principal. And so I'm having to look at that differently. So with getting more support, then maybe can shift some of the roles so I can still get the same information and help, but it's not coming directly from me. So having to look at some of that. The other challenge is just communication. Since everything comes through virtually, emails, doing virtual meetings, those things, there's just that constant demand for the communication to happen, and getting it done in a timely manner, and that without the traditional staff is just a challenge. The other part is, this is our third year for virtual school. This is the third change in leadership. So I am having to build trust between parents and students, and build that consistency so that they know we're really working in the best interest of your students. This is what we're working towards. I'm going to hold you accountable, but we're going to hold ourselves accountable to provide the best possible education and learning environment for you. So that requires me to balance required changes that I need to do, because some things were not working for the best way, I guess, to serve students, and then I need to also balance what was working and build off of that. So those are some of those challenges. And so looking ahead, the middle school curriculum needs to be immediately addressed due to the elective choices. They're just very, very limited. So if a student is in my program from 6th grade through 8th grade, I don't have enough elective choices to give them to fill a full schedule. And so I'm currently looking at the Acellus program. They used it in the first year that they started the virtual school. I'm getting some pretty good feedback from it. Has a nice communication link to it. It also has a vast number of elective choices, but it's robust enough and kind of matches our curriculum. So that's some of the things that I was looking at. I would like to complete a curriculum evaluation of our elective courses, because I want it to balance what is being expected at the comprehensive high school and balance what I'm expecting of my students, because some of those elective courses are rather long, and I think we could probably serve students better and let them experience success if we do some curriculum evaluation with that. Also learned that we have to build up our robust training a little bit for the coaches who are going to be our partners, because as we've learned in this program, I'm expecting the learning coach at home or the parent or guardian to be a co-teacher with us, and sometimes they're not understanding what that means and what that role is, and so need to do a better job of explaining that and realizing they have lots of support, and just as much as the student do, so that their student can be successful. Really would like to increase post-secondary opportunities, continue to build our brand and say what we are about and what we're for, and then still going to advocate for a little bit more additional student support so that we can better serve students and just be better at customer service in the long run. So, and with that concludes my presentation.
Ms. Zimmerman.
When you say additional student support, are you saying money? Is that what that means?
Well, it means money because it's going to mean bodies. So currently, right now, in mid-October, I gained an administrative assistant for 15 hours. That support is allowing me to better serve families with the communication more timely and getting things out instead of just all being through one person office. I would like to look at that being a full-time position or some type of equivalency of full-time, whether that's another person that's going to serve like in that other support role, whether it's social, emotional type of balance.
So if I'm hearing you right, you're short teachers and you're short administrative assistants.
Well, I don't know about, yes, I'm short teachers. I think the administrative assistant was there built in before. I just repurposed a little bit.
Okay. Any other questions?
I just have a comment. Sounds like you're doing a fabulous job, and I'm not a bit surprised. And
Thank
I
you.
like that you're trying to streamline it. I don't as a school board member, want to go down the same path we did with all our alternative school, where we didn't get it figured out before it imploded. So I would really like you to continue on your path of trying to get them to trust, because I think that's a big issue. Are we trying to offer too much before we're ready? It is a different school setup, so do you feel like we need to add more, or you feel the pressure to add more?
I think we need to add more, especially in post-secondary opportunities and a little bit more in building of the community. So our students are asking to have like a club. They would like to have a Stuco. They would like to do, to be a school instead of just having classes. So they're asking for a few things that I think would enrich our school and make it attractive.
Yeah.
And because when you have them, there's a core group of kids that come together and come for support at the same time, and that's them communicating outside of the school. But I think they still kind of miss a little bit of that, but still want the flexibility to work on their own pace.
And that sounds doable. Like, that makes complete sense to me, but having teachers have to learn all these other things that are out of their comfort zone, that's kind of where I'm asking. Do you feel like we're asking teachers to do too much at this early stage?
I don't know if I have an option because I have to offer
Okay.
7 classes, so they have to teach some
They have
electives
to.
With their core classes, so.
Okay. That's what I was just trying to get at. So just want to, I like where you're headed with it, and I hope you keep going, because I think that trust and communication is going to be a really big piece of this, and growing it slow is better sometimes than growing it fast.
Yeah, so I don't think what I'm trying to do is add some things in that enrich, but I do know we're limited.
Okay.
So my bigger focus is getting the curriculum shored up so students can experience success. Because there's a lot of times when you look at some of those elective classes, they seem overwhelming. So for the student, so I think if we can look at that differently and make it to where when they're opening it up, it's like, okay, this is doable, just.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
I'm also not surprised that you're doing well, and you made a comment about being the disciplinarian and the counselor, and you were both for my kids, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And you did a marvelous job there. The curriculum alignment, I think, is a key, too, that you talked through. How does that, I know you mentioned there were a couple of students who transferred back to the building. The curriculum alignment, does that help with that process as well as students are finding their way through our district, through our community, where they can maybe transition back to a building if that's their choice a little easier?
So those 2 particular students were identified, and so they needed the support the more intense support that they had at a comprehensive school, and recognized it pretty early. And so that's why we had that conversation. I think allowing to have those conversations to happen in those situations makes it easier with the curriculum alignment, and knowing that if we're having to move, we're kind of in the same space, because we actually looked at how they're moving through their calendar at the traditional school, and we had to shift units and move, so we're moving in the same space.
Great.
It just takes a lot of work.
Yeah, great. How is success of students going? How's that piece working?
Well, since I came from comprehensive, this is a big pill to swallow when you're talking about success, because it's nowhere near where I want it to be. So, that's the difficult part. There's still those students who are looking to who come to virtual to become invisible.
Okay. I will say, though, probably one of the more memorable things for me was attending the graduation last year for the Virtual Academy and talking to students who would not have graduated if that wasn't the opportunity they had because of things in their family or things at home. So I really appreciate the work you're doing.
Yeah. So we have several students who are being very successful and doing things. So I don't want you to hear, I would like it to be more towards 100% than where we're at, but, you know, I can have those goals.
Exactly. And it's good for them that you do. Ms. Zimmerman.
Yes, it seems like when we started this back in COVID, we said, well, to make this, I don't know, cash flow or to really work, it needed 100 students. And you've only got half that now. So I just was curious if you know how the budget works for your school. Does it add up?
Let me actually get exact figures for you on what we need enrollment-wise to break even. We are not, right now, we're not upside down. So the 100 is high, but I don't have an exact number to give you right now. But I will get that to you. Fair enough?
So I think, and just to make a comment on that, when it started, it was K-12, and it had a lot more staff and different things. So when you cut that in half, and I'm way down in staff, I think what Mrs. Exline is saying, yes, so I work with Lisa and know kind of where we're at and different things. So I think going forward, I can address enrollment a little differently than I was able to starting this first year. And hopefully the state doesn't change the enrollment procedure like they did midstream this year. So.
Mr. Gardner?
I just want to commend you and your staff for what you guys are doing, and actually 305 as a whole. I believe that this program is reaching kids that need to be reached, that otherwise without it we probably would lose. And so to me, it's worth what we're putting into it. Regardless of the payback or what have you, it's more important that we don't lose these kids. And so as long as we're doing that, I'll stand behind you 100%. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
And I'd like to echo that. I want to thank you for taking on this new challenge. You're going to do great there, and we're here to support you.
Thank
Okay?
you.
Thank you for your update this evening.
Okay.
The next item we have is an update on visible learning with Ms. Rector.
Go ahead and put that back up. Mrs. Falcon is doing a wonderful job. Okay, visible learning. So this is just the monthly update. So this is number 2. And so really what we've had since I spoke to you last is we actually had an opportunity to work with about somewhere between 80 and 90 teachers, support staff, administrators as part of a PD session that was focused on impact coaching. And so kind of focused on, when you think about impact coaching, visible learning talks about the impact of the individuals, the teachers, the administrators, and even the students on their own learning and how they support that process. And so an impact coach really is someone that's within the staff that is there, kind of be that cheerleader, to be that person that has their eyes and their ears open, someone for other teachers to talk to about visible learning and about, the challenges in the classroom, how do you apply it in your classroom, and just also being kind of aware of what's happening within the building, looking at some of the goals that the buildings have set, and just kind of being an extra partner with the principal and the leadership team on how to support the visible learning process. When we talk about professional development, for professional development to kind of take hold in an environment, you really have to have a lot of inputs. And coaching is one of those inputs to be able to support that teacher, to be able to say, okay, here's what I've tried in the class. You know what? This is how it went. What do you think about this? A couple people on the staff that are just kind of there to be someone to lean on. And so these individuals are willing individuals that have come to us and said, you know what, I'm willing to do that. So the buildings identified them, made sure that they were wanting to be involved with this. They came for a 3-hour training. This first training was virtual, and Karen Flores, the individual that you met earlier this summer, she was the individual that was involved with providing that training. And this first time is really about the theory of coaching and kind of just getting a little bit of skill under their belt, in the sense that the first place that they focused on was listening. So how do you listen to someone that is talking about the things that they've tried in the classroom, and to be able to listen and let them kind of work things out and be able to then, give input, give support, but not really to provide the PD or to teach them. It really is about supporting and being a colleague to talk about how can we be impactful, but also how can we be effective, and also how can we learn from how we implement things into the classroom, because it is a learning process. It takes a lot of practice. And so having these individuals in the building really allows that principal and that staff to have someone that can say, okay, I'm right here beside you, we're going to figure this out. So this first time, like I said, was a 3-hour training, and we split it up into 2 different sessions, so that way, we would be able to recognize that we have, we needed subs for this, so to be able to allow individuals to come at different times of the day. So most of the buildings split up, the individuals that are going to be impact coaches, and then the building principal was going to go back with their team and then kind of talk about what do the roles and responsibilities look like. And this is a learning experience, and this is the first one that we've had, and we'll have a series of these trainings. We'll have another one in February, and then we'll continue this process next year. So kind of each time building, they got a resource manual that will help them and give them some other things to work with within their buildings. And so that was kind of where we were for this kind of PD that happened in the month of December. It happened on December 1st. Actually, this Friday, we're going to have an opportunity for our principals to meet with Karen Flores, just kind of for a check-in little session. And so the elementary principals will have about a 45-minute session where they'll work together and do that virtually. And then the secondary principals will have that as well, just to kind of check in, touch base, talk about, what they learned at the impact coaching, what they're seeing in their buildings, and to get them kind of ready for that next cycle of learning that takes place on January 3rd. And so then on January 3rd, we will have all of our teachers be part of their professional development day, the general education teachers. We will have the elementary teachers at Central High School, and we will have the secondary teachers at Lakewood Middle School. And so we will have 2 consultants that come from Corwin to support the teachers in that PD session. And so we will have what they call the visible teacher is this next session. So it kind of just continues our learning cycle and is kind of getting our feet and our foundation underneath us. And so we'll be taking some of the things that they learned in August and then building on that. So that's kind of just a quick little update. And so just, part of this journey is that we'll kind of continue to layer in that PD to support the teachers. Because again, we're looking at this for the long haul and making sure that we're going stepwise to support teachers.
I thought it was interesting. I was at one of the grade schools last week and going through the hall, and I happened to ask somebody about visible learning, and they said, oh yeah, here's our poster where the students had identified the characteristics of a good learner. So seeing that working in the schools is very unique too.
It's really exciting because each building can kind of grab hold of what they need and build that capacity with their students and their staff.
I will have Mrs. Rector get me the buildings again in writing for that January 3rd date, so that if you would like to drop by, that you have that information. If you had a few minutes to pop in and see what's happening training-wise, that you could do that.
Okay.
Any questions for Ms. Rector at this point? Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate the update.
Thanks.
It's a great lift for our district, I think. Next item we have is board member reports and upcoming dates of importance. Mr. Gardner, we'll start with you.
I went to Heartland. They are still needing teachers. They're really doing a good job over there, but they, just like everybody else in the workforce, there's just not enough people to go around anymore, it seems like. So any support we can do there is great. Also started attending some of the basketball games and some of the lower level games to see how they're doing, and see how we're making progress in that venue as well. So been doing pretty good.
Thank you. Ms. Cusso?
I attended a Smoky Hill meeting, and I think, did we have a meeting? The Equity Council? We did. Sorry. It kind of ran together, but yeah, that was really good. So I've had those two events. Sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Green?
I presented a You Make a Difference award this afternoon to Tiffany Lowe at Salina Central, and was not able to attend the SCF meeting in November, but there was a new grant awarded to the district to help with teacher recruitment, which I and the rest of the trustees are very excited about. So,
Dr. Bandry?
So along with Dana, I attended the Smoky Hill Ed Service meeting back in November. There's another one on Thursday of this week. And otherwise, it was a pretty quiet month. So off we go.
Very good. Ms. Simmons?
I attended the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, and there's a new alcohol ordinance that clarifies where the beer and alcohol are allowed in Salina parks. They did say that the parks where they're predominantly youth sports, there's no alcohol allowed. I also learned that there are 3 parks that are owned by the school district but managed by the Parks and Rec, and those are Kennedy Park at Heartland, Meadowlark Park at Meadowlark, and Schilling Park at Schilling. I attended the District Health and Wellness Committee, and I learned that Food and Nutrition Service uses a lot of local beef that is packed up in, I think, Concordia, and they've just started using local pork, and they're trying to see how that goes. Some kids won't try anything that they haven't tasted before, and it doesn't taste like fast food when you make homemade pulled pork. And so it tastes weird to some kids, but they're trying to expand their taste. I also learned, well, at that same meeting, David Cooper reported on students in health pathways taking the National Health Science Assessment Test. And our students don't score as well as some on anatomy questions, but they score higher than average on ethics and employability skills. So that seemed really good. I did present a You Make a Difference award at Coronado to Amanda Halland, the 3rd grade teacher, and we, the principal and lead teacher, and I'm afraid we turned her class into chaos, cheering for her, and then left them to her. With Scott, I attended the Heartland Federal Review, met with I think she was from Michigan, and a man on Zoom from Tennessee, and we assured them that we, as the governing board, get regular reports and pay close attention, and making sure that Heartland is doing a good job. And I just finished a songwriting workshop at Meadowlark with six days with Mrs. Eshelman's 5th grade music classes, and had a fun time on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I got to attend the chamber executive meeting. It's always interesting to go to those chamber meetings and hear the impacts and the relevance of the school district and the community, even from the business community there. Attended a CKCIE meeting. Again, topics there revolving recent legislation and changes and how that may impact multiple districts. That's obviously a topic of conversation even within other districts. When we start talking to other board members, it's interesting. I got to present a You Make a Difference award to Jan Boyer, para, over at Stewart. It was really interesting. I called and scheduled it, and she was moving to another classroom. They gave that teacher about 15 minutes notice, and each student in that classroom gave their own card to Miss Boyer and thanked her when we did the presentation. It was pretty impactful, so really kind of a neat thing. And I also was not able to attend the SCF meeting, but really excited about the grant opportunity that came there, and hopefully that will help in retention and recruitment as we try to keep the staff moving forward here. So new tools that are available. Ms. Exline with Superintendent's Report.
Okay, just a couple things. First, just a reminder that we have a couple school visits coming up. One is at the Salina Adult Education Center, and I'll send these to you via email as well, on Wednesday, January 24th at 8:30, and then we'll go to Stewart on Wednesday, April 10th at 10 a.m. Those building leaders and their teams will be presenting just a little bit about the programming that they offer, what makes their particular site special, and then we'll have a chance to visit some classrooms. And so that's an opportunity if you can work it into your schedule. And we certainly understand if you can't, because it is in the middle of the day, but it has to be because that's when the students are there. So the next thing that I wanted to tell you is we are having the Chamber Legislative Roundtable on Thursday. That is a chance for community leaders, those of us that worked on that community-wide Chamber legislative platform, to meet with our legislators and to actually talk a little bit about the overall Salina needs. It won't be USD 305 specific, but there are some of our issues in that platform. We did have Council of Superintendents last week in Dodge City, and at that meeting, we actually presented the Did You Know campaign. We are rolling out a statewide optional campaign. There are 11 superintendents that are collaborating to make this happen, and we are actually developing a template that superintendents and their staff can just simply fill in with some facts about districts to try to just educate the public about all the things that our teachers and staff do that make life better for students and families. And so our first topic was actually on special education. The second will be on how increased costs impact schools as well as you at home. And then we have additional items, services that schools provide. There's a whole list that we're going to try to roll out. And our goal is to try to do one about every other week. We'll see if we can keep that momentum up because we're all busy. But that first one will go out on December 20th, so be looking for that on social media. Jennifer will be getting that out. And it was very well received. And I've had a lot of people, we made the template, so I've had a lot of people asking me for access to the template around the state and calling for help and support on what exactly they need to do. So that's been good. It's good to see the excitement about trying to promote public education. I also wanted to share with you that Dr. Watson, again, highlighted our efforts this morning at the Kansas State School Board meeting. He emailed me yesterday morning and asked for some updated data on are we still seeing improvement, and I shared the following with him. I shared that we're currently 4.8% below last year's rate at this same time. So we are seeing improvement, and the lower you get, the harder it is, so I think that's a huge celebration. As of last week, every building had a lower chronic absenteeism rate than at the same time last year. So that's a celebration. And all of our buildings are below their end of the year rates from last year. And our highest poverty buildings are continuing to see the most improvement. So we're still seeing some market improvement in those buildings. He shared today, and I'll send you the link, a graph that actually showed on the Kansas assessment, I think it was about 51% of students that are at a level 1 are chronically absent. So there's a high correlation there. Can't say it's causal, but certainly the opportunity to be in class and to actually be learning from teachers impacts your ability to master content. And at a level 4, it was less than 4% of students chronically absent. And so I'll share that information with you as well so that you have that. And that you can go and watch the little blurb about 305. I did share with him 3 key points that I believe are making a difference. And the first thing I said is we've really shifted our approach to talk when we're talking to parents, that we went from talking about absences only when they're unexcused to talking about it's important to be there each and every day. And so that slight shift in messaging has made parents, Lynn Exline included, think about when I'm scheduling appointments for my own daughter. And I think about, does this need to be during the school day? Could it be after school? Could it be on a break? The second thing is that we do provide that weekly spreadsheet. And when I say we, that is Jody and her team get that spreadsheet out each week, and it is a lift. But that allows our staff and the teams at the buildings to start to take over that lift of trying to work with families that are experiencing barriers to being at school. And that we have turned that really over to the discretion to the building team, the people closest to the students that know what barriers that family's facing to create plans, rather than it being a one-size-fits-all model. And so it feels much more, I think, respectful. And then the last thing I said was that we did use significant ESSER dollars to increase social work support. And I think that's critical when you're working with families and trying to remove barriers to be at school. So I think that that's a celebration. I also want you to know that tomorrow Mark Tallman from KSB asked if he could write an article about our efforts. And so he will be here meeting with a couple of representatives to actually gather some information about what we're doing in hopes that maybe it could help somebody else that's facing the same challenge as we are.
Thank you. That wraps it up at this point. So I'd take a motion to adjourn. Mr. Grant, Mr. Gardner, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. We will be adjourned.